Todd here with Trailsoffroad, and I am out on the Highway of the Devil. And I am with Jim, who's one of our contributors based out of Tucson, and he's going to tell us all about the trail as we go throughout the day. We'll see you on the trail.
The eastern half of the El Camino del Diablo is wide and manicured and pretty easy like this. It doesn't really start getting narrower and a little more difficult until you're about probably a third to half of the way in. But the Border Patrol manicures this road to look for tracks going across it. And so they drag tires over it quite a bit, so it's usually pretty nice. Maybe a little bit of washboard, but it's pretty nice. Our first stop up ahead here is going to be the first night recommended campsite waypoint. And there's a landmark up ahead that gives away the location of it called Locomotive Rock. And Locomotive Rock is pretty distinctive, and when you see it, you know you're really near to the campsite. And if you're out here during the day, which is pretty rare, usually you're out here at night, but there's lots of good places to camp dispersed along this Darby Weld Road. So off to the left is BLM Road 8115, and the last time I was here in 2016, there was a solitary gentleman walking up the road there with a backpack and a water jug, and it was you could tell he was an illegal crosser. And we briefly talked about stopping and picking him up, but that's a bad idea for two reasons. One, it's illegal, and the second reason is they're usually not by themselves. You stop to pick up one, and 15 more will come out of the bushes and mob you. So it's a good idea just to pass along and let the Border Patrol know that you saw this person, and that's exactly what we did. We ran into a Border Patrol car about 1.5 miles up here and clued him in that there was a lone individual walking through the desert towards Ajo. Okay, the Bates Well is a ranch property that the several families own, but the last family that was here was the Grays, and they actually ranched out here until 1976, and they were in conflict with the National Park Service for 40 years because the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument was formed in 1937. So these homesteaders out here kept their cattle running on the National Monument for all that time, and then finally when the old man died, that was it. The BLM keeps the ranch house up. They actually have maintained the interior and exterior. Most of the old appliances are still inside of it. It's a pretty neat place to stop and check out.
We just came through some really pretty roads. There's a stretch that goes through the Organ Pipe National Monument and just filled with life. The choyas were Jurassic, the largest choyas that I've seen since living here in Arizona for the last 1.5 years. So far, great trail, real pretty. We're not moving very quick as we map it. There's a lot to take in. Tons of side roads that go off to little camping spots. And then really neat places like this, which is the Bates Well.
That you don't encounter out in the desert very often. This is an arrastra, which is a grinding wheel. This is a circle around this central post and a pretty impressive nut on the top of it. Unfortunately, the giant grinding wheel is no longer present, but I bet you it predated this building because it would be kind of tough to get your mules around it with this building in the way. But most of the grinding stones are still here. Just imagine how much grain was ground here to make tortillas or whatever they were making. But it's interesting to find the post and the grinding stones still in place. We are at the intersection of El Camino del Diablo, which is actually the Bates Well Road, and the Pozo Nuevo Road. And what the Pozo Nuevo Road does is it heads dead south, 15.5 miles right down to the border. And literally, you can step over the rail fence, or you used to be able to, and be in Mexico. And you see this red line right here. During the day today, as we approach the border, we'll be able to see semis going back and forth on that Highway 2. That's a pretty major road in Mexico that goes to Baja. So at the end of the Pozo Nuevo Road, it actually connects back up to the loop road that goes around Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument, but there's a significant historical feature down there called the Quito Boquito Well, which is actually a hot spring, and it's about an acre-sized pond that's down there that was on the original El Camino del Diablo. The original El Camino del Diablo came up this Rio Sonoida and stopped at the Quito Boquito Well, and then headed up and will join us a little further down El Camino del Diablo. El Camino del Diablo has been around for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it's been used by native peoples, prehistoric native peoples, ranchers, cowboys, the cavalry, and the 49er gold hunters used this extensively. This was the route they took to get to California because the Apaches wouldn't come down here because it was too hot. So this was their safe route. 6 reliable water sources in about 10 million acres, and that's one of them down there.
The Border Patrol has 2 pretty substantial forward operating bases out here. I don't remember the names of the 2 of them, but I think they have signs that say what they are. But you come to work and you go to your forward operating base and leave your personal car and then pick up your Border Patrol car, I guess. Or it's just where you go hang out when you're not driving around on the dusty trails. But there's this one, which I think is the bigger of the 2. And like I said, I can't remember if it was Daniel or David O'Neill, but in the 1800s, it's alleged that he got a powerful drunk on and drowned in the wash back there, and is the only person to have drowned on the El Camino del Diablo. And legend has it, if you leave an artifact behind, you'll have good luck and make it to the other end of El Camino del Diablo, at least alive. Maybe not your vehicle running right, but it's supposed to be good luck to leave something there.
I've never been on this road, so I'm following Jim. He's telling me that there is a dry lake bed up ahead, so this is starting to be a little bit Mojave Road-like, where you got long stretches of sleepy, sandy road and then a dry lake bed to maneuver. So hopefully it's not wet. I don't think it's corrosive mud like the Mojave Road, but Jim's in pretty much a street-built GX 470 without the tires, so we'll keep proper distance, have tow straps, things like that if we need them. We just got to the playa, and that's what we were worried if there was mud. Apparently this area, the dry lake bed or the playa, can get fairly deep ruts depending on who's gone through it, but looks pretty firm and stable right now. And dusty. Is it always rutted through like this?
Every time I've seen it, it's been deeper though. It's getting deep now, but I've seen it deeper. It's just, this is impassable when it's raining out. This is the only part that ever concerns me right here.
Jim's going to tell us what we're going to hit next.
So we're about to get onto the Pinacate lava flow, which is a big volcanic flow from that stuff out there in Mexico. In fact, you can see the cinder cone that it came from right there. But about the next 20 miles we'll be on lava bed, and we're looking for a couple of interesting waypoints out here on the lava bed.
Alright, so we're looking for a marker on the side of the road. It's literally on, right next to the road. You can see it from your driver window. It's going to be on the driver's side. That says Nameer, N-A-M-E-E-R, 1871. And it's going to be like in one of these red flat spots, and they move the rocks around to spell out Nameer, 1871. Now they think Nameer, nobody's got any proof of this, was one of the camel drivers that the cavalry had in here in the late 1880s. They brought a bunch of camels over from the Middle East, and we're trying them out. So up in Quartzsite, the guy named Hajj Ali, who was the guy that sold him all the camels and brought him out here and showed him how to use them. He's buried up there, and they named him High Jolly, H-I-J-O-L-L-Y, because of course they couldn't say Hajj Ali. So he's High Jolly, and his grave is in Quartzsite.
We just finished the Pinacate lava flow, and now we're going to be going through a deep sandy trenchy area. What are we calling this?
The Slot Canyon.
We're calling it the Sandy Slot Canyon. I don't know, this is what Jim's telling me. Like, I've never been on this road before, so far really nice. We've come through what was not a sandy canyon, but more like a sandy wash, and we're going into the mouth of the Tule Mountains, and it's real pretty. There's a little bit of a bloom going on, so there's a lot of flowers taking place. Really just a really another beautiful part of the road. I'm at the cantina, and inside, written in Spanish, it says, "Your mother isn't here, pick up after yourself." Jim has been looking for this one spot for how many years?
8 years.
8 years, and what's funny is in this one spot there's a little 8 in there, but Jim will tell us what the heck happened here.
So this is either a massacre site where a family of 8 pioneers coming across on El Camino del Diablo were killed, or if you see the straight line through the middle of it, it points exactly at Tule Well and the Tijinas Altas tanks, and they're each about 8 miles apart. So that could be a guide, hey, it's 8 miles to the next water that way, or 8 miles to the next water that way. Either one of those stories could be true. Who knows? Finally, Todd found it today. I drove right by it, and Todd found it.
It was right off the side of the road. We're going to the Tijinas
Altas tanks.
Tijinas Altas tanks for camp.
And we have 3 hours.
It's getting towards the end of the day, so.
And we're
literally those mountains over there as well.
Anyways, maybe we'll find some more massacre sites along the way.
Alright, so we're going across the Tijinas Altas Valley here towards the Tijinas Altas Mountains, and we're dying of thirst. And our last chance for water is the Tijinas Altas tank, which is in the mountains ahead of us. And it's a series of seven granite catch basins that collect rainwater only. There's no spring to feed them. And it's a throw of the dice whether you're going to get there and have enough water for you and your draft animals that are pulling all your possessions across the desert. And a lot of people died getting there too weak from dehydration to climb up to the tank that had water in it. So there's a lot of dead, a lot of graves, a lot of negative history at the Tijinas Altas tank.
So here we are out on the El Camino del Diablo. We're at Tijinas Altas Tanks, which is a pretty famous stop on the Camino del Diablo. It was kind of the last chance for water before you got to the Colorado River or the Gila River. And that was the ultimate goal, was to get to water. And these are a series of seven tanks that are just rainwater catchment basins in the granite rock behind us over here. And a guy named Raphael Pumpelly was a geologist, and he came to Arizona in 1861 looking for gold and silver, and he settled in Tubac, and down by just south of Tucson, maybe 45 miles south of Tucson. And he had a silver mine going up in the Santa Rita Mountains called the Santa Rita Mine. And the Santa Rita Mine is now the Solero Mine, which is on the Solero Road Trail that I rode up. And for years and years and years they were mining silver there. But in 1861, Raphael Pumpelly had a couple of partners that he was up there in the mountains mining silver. And the Apaches were a problem, because in 1861 something significant happened in Arizona. All the army was pulled out to go into the Civil War, and that let the Apaches run free and wild. Well, his partners with him on the Santa Rita Mine, they were really being successful mining a lot of silver. And one of his partners was horribly killed, stripped naked, and left out on the road between Tubac and his mine, and it freaked him out. So he said, okay, I got to get all the silver that I've got smelted in bars, loaded up, and I gotta get out of here, because the Apaches, there's nothing to stop them from coming and killing me and stealing all my silver. And so he did that. He smelted it all and got it into gold or silver bars. Then he went down to Tubac. The Apaches attacked, and the few people that were there in Tubac held him off. And Raphael Pumpelly says, if this is too dangerous of a place to be, I need to go to California. So he loaded all his silver onto his mules and horses, and he headed down into Mexico, down onto the Camino del Diablo, and headed west towards California on the Camino del Diablo. Well, he started out, and he got to Quito Boquito Well, which is something that still exists, and some people tried to jump him and steal his silver, but he fought them off. And onto the Camino del Diablo he went, and he was chased all the way across the Camino del Diablo until he ran into this 10,000 strong cattle drive that was headed to California during the gold rush, because during the gold rush all of the cattle was worth so much that they could drive a huge amount across the El Camino del Diablo and get out the other end here in Yuma and have 90% of them be dead and still make a profit, because they were selling the cattle in California for so much. Anyways, here at the Tijinas Altas Tanks, Raphael Pumpelly was here probably 15 years after the California Gold Rush, 1848, 1861. And the skeletons of all the cattle were still here. And he said that all of the roads leading out of the Tijinas Altas tank were lined with cattle skulls, and you could tell exactly where to go because of all the dead cattle that were on either side of the road. So Raphael Pumpelly made it to Yuma. He had his silver still. He went to California and he sold it, and never got jumped, and then from California he went over to China, and that's a whole other story about his adventures in China.
So we're in the Tijinas Altas Pass. Different ways you can go through here. We're going to go through the historical one, which is the El Camino del Diablo South Track. There is a north track over there that goes through that pass section, and then this one, and then there's that little four-wheel drive cutoff, but we'll stay on the main road. So the significance of this is that this is the only really certain part of the original El Camino del Diablo that we've been on the whole time we've been out here. I mean, the Border Patrol has moved it, the washes have moved it, but this part right here, this is where the wagons would come through the Tijinas Altas Pass on this chunk of road. So that's the significance of where you are right now. They can't really vary the path through here.
So we've just come through the mountains. They're super impressive, very dramatic. We camped, had a great camp spot, good campfire for the night, and now we're entering the Davis Plain, and there's one of these pull boxes here. In case you run into trouble, you press the button. A couple of them, it's kind of comical. I mean, it's not comical because obviously if you need one of these, you need people to come and rescue you. But some of them are fairly interesting. One looks like you're going to be delivered washer fluid, and this one looks like if you push the button, a zombie's going to come.
Alright, so here we are on the west end of El Camino del Diablo, driving out onto the Davis Plain, and it's pretty sandy, flat, easy going. There'll be a few washes we have to cross that are a little rougher. But basically the hard part of El Camino del Diablo is behind us. What people don't realize when they run El Camino del Diablo is it's not a kitty litter highway. There's parts of it that are choked with cactus, there's other parts that are lava beds. There's such a wide variety of biology and geology that there's several different parts that are entirely different even though you're on the same road. So it's well worth taking your time, taking 2 to 3 days to go across it, experiencing all the sights and smells and sounds and wildlife. It's just a really neat experience if you do it right.
When you get through what is called the Davis Flats, you just are following this rock formation pretty much the whole way. This time of year, March 1st, is just real unbelievable wildflowers. Really pretty place. So far, the west end, I've kind of liked a little bit better than the east end. They're both very different, but really just an unbelievable place. It's been a fun trip, a lot of different terrain changes, a lot of different things to see. And if you're looking for more trails like this, simply log on to trailsoffroad.com, click the big map, and start exploring. Hope to see you out there.